Hello world and welcome to Style Amplified. I'm your host, Gyasi Williams, and today we have the pleasure of sitting down with Detroit's own Damian McSwine, author, motivational speaker, as well as health and wellness enthusiast. He also travels nationally as well as internationally, giving lectures to the community. He's also the author of a book called Urban Kryptonite, which talks about some of the main causes of declines in health to the Black as well as African American community. Greetings, Damian.
What's up, bro?
And thanks for coming on Style Amplified.
Thanks for having me, bro.
We appreciate it, sir.
All day.
All right. So for those who are unaware, who is Damian McSwine? And can you tell our Style Amplified viewers at home a little bit about your journey? Because I'm sure you have a very interesting story about what has brought you up to this point thus far.
Who is Damian McSwine? That's a little bit complicated, but I'll simplify it as much as I can. The background behind who I am is I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. Lived there for my entire life with the exception of 1 year in which I spent in Greenwood, Mississippi with my grandparents. But for the most part, I've been I wouldn't say a health advocate, I just say somebody who likes or who deals with health. I've never been an individual that abuses drugs, smoke or drink, anything like that. Playing basketball, which we all grew up playing, you know, I had the opportunity to take my talents overseas to play after college, in which that equated into a 13, 14-year career. So during that time, you know, you party a little bit, you know, but you don't really drink seriously. Right. At least not like the other dudes that I used to hang around. No, you never do that. But
don't say their names.
Yeah. You know, I ain't going to turn state's evidence on you.
Okay.
But, you know, it was just during that time, during my travels, that I kind of fortified my studies. And I always knew that there was a simpler way that we could live, that we could achieve optimal health. But I couldn't quite pinpoint. I wasn't a doctor, so I was too young to actually focus on that, because when you're a kid, you're just not really thinking about that. But you always know that there's a better way. And I think throughout my years of growing up in Detroit, living in a home with a mother that was from the South, and my brother's father who raised me, who was a military guy, you know, I kind of had a good core for which to go out and to question some of the things that were being pushed to mainstream media, through mainstream media. And that's kind of helped me throughout my life to go beyond instead of taking things on the surface. And so during my high school years, I kind of focused in on basketball, because I used to be a football player. Okay. So I focused in on basketball and was able to get a scholarship to Loyola University of Chicago. And from there, went overseas playing ball. And I've always been into health, always, one way or the other. Now, I might have ate the soul food diet, but I still knew that eventually I needed to stop it.
Definitely.
But one of the biggest things that really made me focus on the diet was becoming a conscious Hebrew Israelite back in 1998. Oh, wow, okay. Yeah, so that was, I had to leave the bacon alone, I had to leave the catfish, the shrimps, I had to leave all that stuff alone if you wanted to be a part of the Hebrew Israelites. So all those dietary laws, Leviticus, you know, the dietary law, Leviticus, I would follow that. And that kind of really just threw me to another stratosphere with helping me to live a healthful life. Okay.
My next question just leads into, of course, there are a lot of self-proclaimed experts on health, a lot of people with certifications and degrees, etc. But I know one of the bigger questions that we'll probably get when people view this is, who is Damian McSwine to tell me about my health? What do you have to say to our Style Amplified viewers on that?
Well, you know what? I get that question a lot.
Okay.
I get that question a lot. And what I would say is I would compare that to being married just in a civil union without a piece of paper and being married on paper. Right. Just because you are married on paper doesn't make it any different from being married in that civil union, the agreement. Now, you might not have to pay that child support. You might run for the hills. But nevertheless, it doesn't mean that you love that individual any more or any less. So what I'm saying is that I'm just a dude from Detroit who's traveled the world. I've been to about 40 to 45 countries. Most doctors haven't been to that many countries.
This is true.
So I've been able to record, document, and just stay focused on many of the things that many of these cultures were doing to either add years to their life or cut years from their life. The biggest thing that I learned was this: health, or achieving optimal health, had nothing to do with money. It's not about money. You have people in third world countries routinely living to be 100 years old.
Wow.
Now, when you look at the United States, what you'll find is the United States is ranking between 50th and 60th in the world in life longevity.
Wow.
Japan is number 1. Nevertheless, we have all the resources, but you're still dying at a rate faster. You got 50 to 55 more countries that live longer than you, and they don't even have half of the resources that you have. So it wasn't about the money aspect, and that's one of the things that a doctor, they can't tell you. See, what doctors do is doctors study what's called medicinal chemistry. Well, pharmacists.
Yes.
Pharmacists study medicinal chemistry, and doctors are reduced to what's called the Newtonian approach, cause and effect. So when they treat you, let's say you come in with diabetes, a doctor treats you generically. Okay, he's got diabetes. We'll give him this medicine, we'll give him that, and that's it. They don't treat the individual because they don't know you. And that's what people have to understand when you're going in dealing with a doctor. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm nothing. But in being nothing, I'm everything.
Definitely.
So I can just talk to you about the things that I know. I don't diagnose. I don't treat. I'm not a herbalist. I'm nothing. All I'm doing is relaying the information to you. And that's my biggest thing. I would never claim to be someone who studied in the institution of the United States, as we would call it. But the books and the things that are available to people in general are not solely just kind of quarantined for doctors or dietitians or nutritionists. I could read those books too. So just because I go to school or just because I go to a school does not mean that I'm going to know more than an individual who doesn't go to that school. If he gets those books, he's going to be able to read those books and learn that information. So what I would say is that I have the in the field experience as opposed to many doctors or people like that. A doctor will refer to, if you ever notice when you go to a doctor will refer to a pharmacist who studied medicinal chemistry. A pharmacist is going to know how that medicine works better than a doctor.
This is true.
So a doctor is just giving you, they are treating you based on protocol, based on what they learned in school. I'm talking to you based on in the field experience. Who would you rather go to war with? Somebody who's been shot, who shot people, or a guy that just set up and played Warcraft on PlayStation?
Right.
Kind of. So that's the difference. Simulation versus real life.
You mentioned about how America, we have all the resources in the world to do what we need to do, but yet we are down on, let's just say 50, 60th down on that list. The biggest word or question that I can ask is, why, Damian? Why do you think that is, that we're at that point?
There's a litany of reasons why.
Okay.
But I'll put it I'll put it short. We rely on media and we rely on other people to take care of us. What I mean by that? What I mean is that you feel that you can eat whatever you want, and then the doctor's going to save you with a magic bullet,
right?
AKA called a pill.
Right.
And so there's no responsibility. There's no personal responsibility. Our lives here are more sedentary. You look at a place like Jamaica, a place like Dominican Republic, a place like Brazil, there are not as many people that have the funds to buy a car. So you got to walk everywhere. Because you have to walk everywhere, that's automatic exercise, whether you believe it or not. That's cardio. You got to walk an hour to and from work. You know, that's cardio. If you're making $250 to $300 a month, you don't have the money to buy a car. That's your whole salary right there.
This is true.
So unless you're going to Master P and sell out your truck, then it's going to be difficult for you.
Definitely.
So we have to understand that here in America, we kind of spoiled. You're a spoiled society. Until you travel out, you can't fully understand what other people are going through. So they do more with less. And if you ever think about when you have a tough situation, when you're down on money, you are able to live just fine. And then when you get that money again, you start splurging again because we're living in excess.
Right.
We eat in excess. We spend in excess.
Consumption.
We're a consumer society. We're not a society that is focused on being business owners or being people that what we would call misers, or people that know how to save and be thrifty. Those people in this society are able to thrive and go far.
Well, I think that's powerful. And also with all the places that you travel to, there's a certain level of education that goes into that for our Style Amplified viewers at home. So reading a book is not the only way to educate yourself. Traveling and the experience of seeing new and different things is important. But just a little bit off topic, but not really.
Okay.
You mentioned India and all these places, man. It is so funny it stuck out that you mentioned that, because I know from personal experience, I'll be walking through the mall and I'll see a Indian family, and you'll see the mother, the father, the grandmother. They're all walking, and she's walking in perfect health. You know, 3-4 generations of their family are walking through the mall together. I know it just dawned on me that I rarely see that from an African American family typically. Well, you'll see the grandfather and the grandmother, they're all walking. She doesn't need any assistance. She may be carrying her grandchild or her great-grandchild in some instances. So I think that's very powerful information. And kind of the transition also to add on that, some people may ask, why, Damian, like, why do you care so much about this cause?
There's a old adage that basically says that when you know better, you have to do better.
Definitely.
Now, not everybody on my block in my neighborhood, I live in one of the toughest neighborhoods in America, not just Detroit, but in America. So not everybody on my block is even going to be able to leave the block, let alone leave the city or the state. And then you talk about the country, that's a whole nother world.
Definitely.
So they don't even own passports. They're not even thinking of a passport. And we live right next to Canada, which is 5 minutes.
Wow.
So most people have never even been to Canada. But why do I care? It's upon me. It's like asking somebody, when you have money and you see people that's struggling, is it a point? Yeah, you could keep your money and just sit back and chill and live straight and be comfortable for the rest of your life. But are you going to have true happiness by doing so? And the answer is no. I've had a lot of my family members pass away. I've had uncles, grandmothers, cousins. I had a lot of people shot, died, people that died young from things that could be prevented or could have been prevented. And so the straw that broke the camel's back is I had a brother. He's like a little brother to me. He went to the hospital perfectly healthy at 26 years of age. Well, perfectly healthy in the say that nothing was really wrong with him, but he was having an episode with sickle cell. Okay. And they gave him a shot and sent him home. So he wasn't feeling good, so he went back later again. And that was the last time anybody seen him alive. Wow. And so I say that to say that when you depend on hospitals or other people to get you better, then you're going to be in a big dilemma. You're going to be in a big dilemma. Definitely. Because doctors detect, people prevent. So if you want to be healthy, that's on you.
Say that one more time for our people out there.
That's right. Doctors detect, people prevent. So you can't go to the doctor. Most of us like to go to the doctor. They like to visit the doctor when you're on your last rope. It's like the great Brian Tracy, motivational speaker. He says people have a problem doing the things that are hard and necessary now so that you can live comfortable later on. So what they do is they party, they drink, they smoke, they do everything now, and then they want to scramble when it comes to the end of their life. They try to do the hard necessary, and it's too late. Most people don't look up until they're flat on their backs, and that's society as a whole, especially in the United States. So me caring, or why do I care, is that I've lost a lot of people from things that could be prevented. You don't have to die from diabetes. You don't have to get your legs cut off from diabetes. You don't have to die from high blood pressure. These are not jail sentences. These are not lifetime sentences. These are things that are nutritional deficiencies. If you consume the right foods, you can improve. I'm not going to use the word cure because that's a FDA word that's trademarked. But you can heal, you can improve. I'm not interested in curing anybody or helping cure anybody. I just want to see you live to your full genetic potential, which is roughly 120 years. And all of you Bible readers, everybody that's dealing in the Bible, you know that God tells you that my soul shall not always strive with man, therefore I give you 120 years. So that right there, if you believe in the Bible, then you know that living to be 70, 75 years of age, which is the median for this country, you're still missing out on 50-something years.
A powerful 50-something years.
Yes.
A powerful 50-something years. So I think the answer that Damian gave our Style Amplified viewers at home is the most authentic answer that you'll ever get. And I think, his personal challenges and his personal attachment and passion is reason enough for him to care. Also, I would like to add is him wanting to teach others. As the old saying goes, your success is in your successor. So I appreciate the answer, and we'll keep it pushing.
Much appreciated, my man.
Most definitely. So, Damian, I understand with your professional basketball career that it ended abruptly, so to speak. Can you tell our Style Amplify viewers a little bit about how that came about?
Basically, what happened is in 2008, I was playing down in the Dominican Republic. We had just won a championship. It was the first championship for that team, for that club, which is my club down there, since 1988. So you're looking at 20 years. So when we won, we had people crying. You had all kind of pandemonium going on, and I was actually the MVP. I had the game-winning shot with 13 seconds left in Game 7. You could actually see that footage online. The people are running and crying and hugging and all of that.
So you actually hit the 5-4, the countdown that we've done on the playground in the driveway.
I hit it, brother.
Okay.
I hit it, and I'm not Ray. What's his name?
Ray Allen.
Ray J. I'm not Ray J.
Oh, you're Ray Allen.
I'm not Ray J. Yeah. No, yeah.
Okay.
But I did make that shot, and you know, I thought everything was good. I was at a kind of an all-time high in my career.
Okay.
Things were going well, and I started having foot pain. I started having foot pain, or what the Spanish people would call guanete, but black people, we would, you know, just talking English, you'd say like a bunion, calcium deposit. Okay. And what happened is, over time, which something I was supposed to be getting fixed when I was younger, you know, your parents tell you something, you think you know everything. I was always a hard-headed kid, man. And I let it build up, and eventually the pain became too unbearable, and I needed to get it fixed. So what I decided to do was, my team was willing to cover it and pay for everything, so I got it fixed in the Dominican Republic, which was a big mistake.
Oh, wow.
That was one of the worst things that I could have done. I might as well have just kind of went to the Congo and let some tigers operate on my foot, you know, because they fixed my foot like I was that of a 70-year-old, like I would never play again. Not only did they fix my foot the wrong way, but they removed cartilage, they removed bone, they removed things that were not supposed to be removed. To make matters worse, my foot got an infection.
Oh, wow.
So imagine you got all this random dust. If you ever been to the Caribbean, you know it's just dust, everything just flying in the air. You have an infected foot, and your foot still needs to heal from the operation. So my foot was swollen. It was, you know, just had all kind of stuff. And they tried to treat the infection like I was prehistoric days. They were going in, scraping the scar, and with no anesthesia. It was tough, man. It was like, I was holding the walls. It was like one of those things that you only see in a movie. And I had to go home because of the situation that happened with the young brother that I told you was kind of like a brother to me. What actually happened is he died. And because he died, that's the only way that I found out that I still had an infection in my foot.
Oh, wow.
So the people in the Dominican was not threatening, but they were saying like, we're gonna have to amputate your foot, because my foot had turned black and everything. And so I went home. I went to little bro's funeral, and one of the family members, her name is Kami, she said, look, you know, your foot is messed up. What's going on there? That foot has got an infection. I know it's got an infection. And so I went from Chicago to Detroit, and I tried to locate my foot doctor, who I usually deal with, Dr. Hoffman. And he was on vacation, as luck would have it. So 2 or 3 doctors kind of checked me out. And when they checked me out, you know, they said, look, we don't know who did your surgery, but whoever did it, they must have had a wig on, because we've never seen a surgery like this for a bunionectomy ever in our entire life. And they basically said, look, your career is over. You don't worry about trying to play. You just need to worry about trying to walk, to put the pieces together. So from the time that I saw all of these doctors, it became evident that I needed to fix this issue. The only thing I didn't like about dealing with these doctors was that they were very, I wouldn't say pessimistic, because they were just telling the truth based on their medical or their professional opinion. And I couldn't be upset with that. So over the course of 12 months, I had 5 surgeries. I had 5 surgeries in that 12 months on my foot. And the last surgery was that of placing a titanium toe joint into my big toe. So what that does is it would allow my big toe to bend. Now, no athlete had ever done that. You can check it. You can look it up. You know, many people that might watch Style Amplified are internet users. So what you'll see is that no athlete has ever played with a titanium toe joint ever. I mean, it's almost impossible to do. And to be honest with you, I still don't know how I was able to come back but I was able to come back to the game of basketball by applying everything that I learned overseas, from the amount of water that I needed to drink, from leaving certain things out of my diet, from sleeping habits, from the correct juice to drink. I put all of that into my regimen of coming back, along with swimming every day. I swam 40 laps every day in the pool, and just doing basic things, but things that would go a long way. And I was able to come back to the game of basketball against all conventional wisdom and knowledge, which was a surprise to everybody, even the doctor, to know that I had came back. And it was just that right there that kind of set me in motion to say, hey, if I could do this with something like this, then something like diabetes, just give some information about diabetes, high blood pressure, asthma, arthritis, eczema, psoriasis, you name it. These were things I needed to be able to lecture about and share the information on, because it's just simple things. This is just information. That's all it is. This is not classified esoteric stuff that you can't learn. But most people are so caught in the matrix, they're just trying to survive. I just so happen to be in a position where, yes, I'm trying to survive, or I am surviving, but at the same time, I don't have to deal with that 9 to 5, so I can give you the information while you go and still work at your 9 to 5, which is probably causing you stress anyway, making you unhealthier, generally speaking. I mean, that's just people. People just worry. People worry just from everyday life. If you got your kids doing something, you got your spouse doing something, you are at work, somebody's stressing you. So these are just things that I've been able to learn, I've been able to incorporate in my recovery. And I'm here to say that they worked.
Wow, I think that story for our Style Amplified viewers at home is very powerful, it's very impactful and inspiring. And I think a titanium plate in your toe joint.
A titanium toe joint, bro.
I've never heard that before, so it's definitely something I'm going to go online and check out personally. So I definitely appreciate you sharing that with our viewers out there.
Thank you.
So Damian, you've written several books. Your most recent, a book titled Urban Kryptonite. So can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to write the book? Because it is generating a lot of buzz. And why the title Urban Kryptonite?
What inspired me to write the book was those travels that I spoke about to those 40, 45 countries. You saw, I was able to see people that were melanated or black all around the world. And what I saw was that their reality was different than the reality of the so-called African diaspora descendants here in the West. In the West, Jamaica, Dominican Republic, primarily United States. Okay, we could filter down to Brazil and Trinidad and Tobago, but I was speaking primarily as far as the United States is concerned.
Okay.
The dynamic is simply different. Yes, you have problems in Jamaica, you have problems in the Dominican Republic. However, in the so-called United States, the headquarters of the Matrix, you have a dynamic that's so unique that other countries that are in the Americas that are African diaspora descendants, they disassociate with the so-called African American. You have many people that's Dominicans, many people that's Puerto Ricans, Colombians, all of them. Those people are part of the African diaspora, but they'll tell you that they're not black. Wow. Now, what people don't understand is that more slaves went to these islands than it did the United States. More slaves went to Dominican Republic, Venezuela, Brazil, 3.5 million. There was only about 650,000 that came to the United States. So the only difference between a African diaspora descendant in the Americas and that of the United States was simply a boat stop.
Okay.
So there was, you know, we're all coming out of Africa, more or less.
Definitely.
But still, the dynamic was so different for the African American. You're only 12 to 13% of the population, yet you lead the nation in all diseases. You're number one in diabetes. You're number one in heart attacks. You're number one in asthma. This colon cancer. You have everything, and that is attributed not only to the diet but to a lot of social factors. You're looking at using drugs and alcohol as coping mechanisms. You're looking at the soul food. You're looking at mental programming. One of the biggest tools used for mental programming is what's called ambiguity. You mix a little truth with lies, you don't know what to believe.
Right.
So we have left spirituality and we focus on religion. Spirituality focuses on becoming like God. Religion deals with just talking about God. So that's why you can go to church or to the mosque and you can talk about God there, and then you can go and just live a reckless life. So these are some of the things that we're dealing with that we don't even realize that we're engaging in, because everything that you have as an African American has been given to you. If somebody could physically enslave you, don't you think that they could mentally enslave you?
It might be easier.
It is easy, you know, and that's something that we're not realizing. Like, okay, we have these books. This is how it's supposed to be. No, this is just a piece to the puzzle. I'm not going to bring you somewhere and give you a book and say, this is going to allow you to get above me.
Right.
You understand? And that's not to make anybody upset that sees this interview, but we have to start going beyond what's in front of, because what's always there is not what's always there. And we have a lot of issues with focusing on doctors and prescription drugs when the average doctor dies at about 60, early 60s.
Wow, I never knew that. The average doctor dies
on average
in their 60s.
On average, early 60s. The national median is about 75 years age.
So the one who is prescribed to help me get well, or quote unquote well or healthy, on average, he or she is dying in their 60s. He or she is dying roughly in their 60s. That's not Damian McSwine. That's the national facts. Those are facts. I'm not making this up. So just by understanding that, you are more prone to understand that doctors are human beings. Definitely.
You know, and the medical industry is a business. Just like you go to a store to buy food, going to the doctor is a business. So when you go to the doctor, he or she has to charge you for x-rays. They need blood. They have to pay for their rent. They have to pay for their daughters' or sons' education, their wife's vacation. Yeah, exactly. And their private practice, if they practice in private. So doctors practice. We're talking about practice, like Allen Iverson said. This is practice. This is not perfection.
Right.
So because it's not perfection, every time you get up on an operating table, every time you take medicine, every time you take advice from a doctor, you're taking a risk. Now, because it's practice, you don't know when they might miss that shot. And that shot might mean your life.
And misses do happen.
They do happen. But misses are part of the game, which is why you can't go blaming a doctor for something that happened to you when you put your life in a doctor's hands.
Definitely.
And so, again, not going at doctors, as we would say in Detroit. I'm not going at them. All I'm saying is that we have to understand that they're human beings. They get heart attacks too. Doctors get diabetes too. Because doctors, in general, don't focus on nutrition. And nutrition is the bottom line to healing. And I think that's something that I want to bring to the African American community. And not just African American, anybody that's heavily melanated. And not just anybody that's heavily melanated, whether you are white, whatever color you are, the information is going to help you regardless. But there's just certain factors that happen in the United States that heavily melanated people just so happen to be susceptible to. That's all, and it's the diet. It is a big portion is the diet. It's the lifestyle. It's the living conditions in which we live. You were taken from a country far away. You were taken from a country far away. You're separated from your wife. You're separated from your kids. You're separated from everybody. I'm going to take you out. I'm not going to allow you to practice your spirituality, your religion. I'm going to take you in a foreign land. I'm going to put you into a cold climate. I'm going to put you into a cold climate. You were used to having the sun shining on your pineal gland, strengthening that melanin. I'm going to take you away. So from that point, we were stressed as a people. When you are living constantly stressed, you are putting a lot of pressure on your adrenal glands. So when that kid goes to school, he's living in the projects. When that kid goes to school, you say, this kid can't learn. He's got a learning disability. Of course he can't, because he can't sleep. It's gunshots in the air at night. So every time something happens to you, when you set your alarm clock and that alarm goes off, you're shocking your adrenal glands. Eventually, it's going to run out. They're going to run out, and you're going to have problems. So these are small things that we have to understand that we need to take control of. And it's not about a doctor. Information rules the nation.
Definitely, definitely. And I think that the idea of you writing this book is a great thing, because I definitely think it fills a gap for our Style Amplified viewers at home. Diet and nutrition, I know, is something that came into my life at a later stage. It's definitely not something that's always taught to us. So Urban Kryptonite is definitely something that can bridge or fill those gaps for you. So I appreciate you sharing that information, brother.
No doubt.
Damian, now the title, Urban Kryptonite. Why the title Urban Kryptonite?
Man, let's be real. I mean, we could talk politically all we want here.
No, let's keep it real on Style Amplified, authentic.
Let's call a spade, man.
Okay.
Most black people are living tough. They're living check to check.
Most definitely.
And
Most definitely.
their health is in jeopardy. I wanted to title it Urban Kryptonite because we all live in different houses, but yet we're suffering from the same things. When you think of African American people, you think of, it's called urban. It's the urban community.
Right.
So I wanted to say, what is crippling the urban community? When you think of kryptonite, they pull that green rock or crystal, whatever it is, out on Superman, he gets weak.
Definitely.
So what is it that's weakening the heavily melanated individuals in the United States, known as the African Americans, the Afro-Latinos,
Right.
and anybody else that's falling under that umbrella, whether you're a Moor, whether you're a Prince Hall, a Freemason, whether you're a 5%ers, Hebrew Israelite, any name you have for black people, you're all under that umbrella. No matter what religion you're under, you're still eating a certain way. You're still living a certain way, with the exception of those quote-unquote radicals who really do follow their dietary laws.
Wow, wow. Urban Kryptonite. I think that's an awesome title, and it definitely fits. I also see that the word urban seems to be the new way they describe us as well. You know, he's urban. So watch out for that. So Urban Kryptonite, the book, as we speak at this point, you're also in the process, I hear, of creating the film, Urban Kryptonite. So how's that process been going for you, as well as what is the difference between the book versus the film?
The book goes into several different subjects, okay? Whereas the film, this first film is going to concentrate on nutrition. It would have been unfair for me to just try to bottle everything up and put it into under one nest. So I needed to make a film that would be at least 2 hours, 2.5 hours, specifically talking about nutrition, because nutrition is a big part of why we're in this situation. Nutrition plays a part in how you think while you're murdering people. Nutrition plays a part in the diseases. Nutrition plays a part in personal relationships. Nutrition, all religions have nutritional laws. You don't follow them, but they do have them. You know, so I needed to cover the nutrition because that's the first thing that we identify with. All cultures across the world identify food with culture. When you think of Jamaicans, you think of curry chicken, you think of ackee, the fruit, you think of I think it's the yellow yam. When you think of Dominicans, you think of arroz habichuela, rice and beans. You think of plantains, you think of yuca. When you think of Nigerians, you think of fufu and the greens and all that kind of stuff. I didn't know what Nigerians eat. So yeah. Well, that's just I'm letting you know. Yeah, fufu. It's called fufu. It's what is that? It's like a carbohydrate. It's white and it's kind of fluffy. It's not rice, but it's a carbohydrate, and it's not the consistency of a potato, but it's not the consistency of rice. It's like somewhere in between, but it's kind of fluffy though. But they eat that a lot. Yeah. Oh, you're adding to my experience and my repertoire. I appreciate that. Well, I'm definitely excited for the book. I know it's something that is going to be definitely helpful to everyone. And also, when I hear you explain the process of the film and how you're going about it, I can't help but think back to when you told me 13, 14 years in the league, playing basketball professionally, and all the discipline that must have took. So it's almost the feeling I get is you've taken some of your past experiences and the discipline and the rules and everything that you've been through has culminated into being applied to what you're doing right now. And I think that's an awesome thing for our Style Amplified viewers at home, because some of us don't understand sometimes how one thing we're going through or that we're experiencing, how it builds us into the next challenge or the next opportunity. So I think Damian McSwine is a great example of that, and I appreciate you sharing with our people, man. Hey, I love the people. That's what I'm here for. And we'll keep it pushing. So, Damian, for the people who don't know you, what is one of the biggest misconceptions that people have about Damian McSwine? One of the biggest misconceptions that people have is, oh, this guy, he's arrogant, or he thinks he knows everything. You know, I have people that might kind of comment on videos on YouTube, but they don't realize that I'm coming from a place of trying to share the information. I'm not coming from a place of telling you what to do, or, you know, so from afar things look a certain way when they're actually not that way. They're actually the opposite of what you think. I mean, I could just sit home and not share any information, and just be okay like that. But that's not the right way to do things. When you know something, you have to share with other people. Many people think that, I'm not approachable or that I'm all serious. But when you're doing something like this, you have to be serious, at least in front of this camera, because perception is everything. And for many people, perception is reality. So I have to make sure that I'm on point, especially coming out with a documentary of this magnitude.
Definitely.
You have to be serious when you're dealing with people's health. You can't come out laughing and joking. And that's what I wanted to do with Urban Kryptonite. But, those are two of the biggest perceptions. I think that people in general, when you see so many people that walk around with their head down, or they have a lack of self-esteem, and you see somebody who believes in themselves or is trying to do something, they misconstrue that for being arrogant. It's not about being arrogant. It's just that I have to believe in myself. My mother always taught me that, son, if you're going to be homeless or if you're going to be a bum, you got to be the best bum possible. Those are my mother's exact words.
Okay.
And so I'm just focused on making this project the best that it can be, because when you're no longer on this earth, all you have are the things that are left behind. I'm not talking about the money. You don't have the money.
Definitely.
You have what you did for other people, because the memories are what you can take. You can't take the money with you. So, or what you can leave. But you can leave the money, but the money will run out. Unless you go to Vegas and you shoot craps like I do, and you make that money extend, or you play the poker table.
And your 120th year.
No doubt about it.
So I appreciate you sharing one of those biggest misconceptions, and I think that what you're doing, you have to be focused with it. Your credibility is everything when you're talking about what people will consume into their bodies. So I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
So Damian, as we say with our Style Amplified viewers, we're about to change things up, but tie it all back together. So whether it's the way you walk into a room, whether it's the way you carry yourself, we here at Style Amplified, our motto is everyday people, everyday life with style. So take a few moments and explain to our Style Amplified viewers and describe your own personal style and what the style means to you.
I describe my style as, whether it's the way I talk, the way I dress, my approach to making documentaries, whatever it is, it's just unorthodox, but it's very effective. And so with that effectiveness, you can't argue. Well, you can't argue with the way Manu Ginobili plays, because he's won 4 championships. Well, no matter how weird it looks, it's still effective. Style to me basically means who you are. What is it that you represent? This is the way you do things. And so when I think of people, I look at different people, and I like to bring basketball into this situation, because that's just something that I've done for the last 13 to 14 years. So you look at Michael Jordan, you look at his style. His style is fundamental, but he has flair to the game. You look at Tim Duncan. His is fundamental, but it's super basic. You look at Magic Johnson, you've got excitement. You look at Kobe Bryant, you've got showmanship. So everybody has their different style. Even though they're playing basketball, they're under the same umbrella, but everybody has their different style. So when you think of style, you think of how can you be identified? Who are you? And that's what style is all about to me.
So Damian, we here at Style Amplified would like to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to meet with us today. But before we go, please let our Style Amplified viewers at home know how they can get in contact with you, or when you'll be in their city or state.
I think the best way to reach me would be through our website, www.privateeyehealth.com. I am on Twitter now. You can reach me there. Sometimes I'm tweeting. I'm a little bit of a dinosaur, so I've just learned how to do this tweet thing. And then I'm on Facebook, and there I have a personal page, and I also have the author page, preferably the author page, because that's where I put all the information. We put videos, we put what's going on. And we also are preparing our Urban Kryptonite Films page. We are working on the actual Urban Kryptonite site. So we have a lot going on. We have a team of great people that we've been forming. So we're working around the clock to make things happen. Support the book, the Urban Kryptonite book at www.urbankryptonite.com to give you an actual visual of what you can expect from the film. So we have that. We have other books of mine. You can go on Amazon and type in Damian McSwine. I also have a YouTube page, Private Eye Health. We've got about 220 videos there. So we're getting some traction, a lot of traction. There I've got videos on all kinds of subjects, all kinds of health subjects, you name it. I am talking about it, I am speaking about it. So I can be reached at all those places, but our primary website is www.privateeyehealth.com.
So this concludes another episode of Style Amplified. I'm your host, Gyasi Williams. And as always, everyday people, everyday life with a little bit of style.